Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel for a very special video. Now, as you might have gathered or heard already, as a resident of the North, I had the pleasure of attending one of the special Twice Upon a Time screenings arranged by the BBC. Very random, just kind of woke up, I think it was on the 23rd of November actually, of the Doctor Who anniversary. I woke up and got the news about these Northern screenings that were going on, and yeah, very, very random. Don't know why they're doing it really, but hey ho, it was a chance to see the Christmas special early. I wasn't complaining, and I applied for tickets and was successful. And I attended the screening today. I'm recording this on the same night I've just been to the Bradford screening, the very last one in the run. And yeah, seen Twice Upon a Time. The first time I've seen a Doctor Who episode ever before the public, which feels like a massive privilege, and it feels very strange, really. I went with fellow Doctor Who YouTuber Miles Taylor, aka Cyberleader1010, had a few spare tickets, so I thought I might as well invite him, and our siblings came as well. And as you can see in this photo, we had a photo taken with the TARDIS in the snow, which was very nice, just in the first room in the building as you enter, before going to the screening itself. The venue was the Bradford Old Odeon Cinema, which was pretty derelict really, and not the warmest because there was no central heating. It's an old building that has been specially opened for this event and for similar events. But overall, it did the job. I mean, it wasn't perfect, but yeah, what can you do, I suppose? And it was funny queuing up outside the venue with passing pedestrians. They seemed to be obsessed with asking why there were BBC logos everywhere. So many people asked me, and I was like, oh, it's a Doctor Who screening. And I kind of shook it off and dismissed it and went, oh, okay. I think they probably thought of something a bit more exciting than that. But anyway, you've come here to hear my thoughts about Twice Upon a Time, not about the experience itself as much. So what can I say? Well, I am strictly limited to the official content, really, it has to be said. The synopsis, the trailers, the promo pics. But of course, to make this review worth watching for you, I might as well give you my own spin on things, my own opinion of what I saw tonight. So what did I think of it? Well, goodness me, Twice Upon a Time, the episode was just phenomenal. It was a really amazing experience. Firstly, just watching it on a big screen with a communal audience. It's not a way that I've watched Doctor Who before, ever. I've always wanted to kind of go to one of the cinema screenings. One of my biggest regrets as a fan is not going to one of the Day of the Doctor screenings back in 2013. So this was just a case of me really taking the chance and embracing it. Seeing Doctor Who on a big screen with an audience. And it was great because, you know, that the rest of the audience reacted in the same way as you at times. You know, if there was a funny bit, everyone would laugh, and it was just a really, really nice way of watching Doctor Who, and really different as well. And I'm sure that added to the experience, but even without that, I think Twice Upon a Time is just a really wonderful finale for both the 12th Doctor and for Steven Moffat. It rounds off those two respective eras very, very well. There are lots of surprise references back to each of their eras, and indeed further afield and further beyond the 12th Doctor's era, further beyond the Steven Moffat era. Some quite obscure, actually. I won't give away too much, obviously, because these are the kind of bits that you're not meant to talk about. But yeah, there are a few surprises and shocks in store, definitely, for Christmas Day. To be honest, it is really what it says on the tin. Two Doctors meeting at the South Pole and going on a kind of emotional, spiritual journey, if you like, to come to terms with the process of regeneration and their respective body changes, you know. And the story explores the theme of regeneration really well, actually, perfectly. It explores what it might be like to retain the same thoughts, the same soul, the same memories, but in a new body, and the importance of kind of carrying on life optimistically with hope and not giving in, really, not giving up, not giving in, not being cruel, cowardly, etc., etc. Though there isn't really much plot as such, it's not a story that's heavy on plot. It does this one tiny simple thing very, very well, and it's nice to have lots of character moments and just really to have a breather of an episode, because the 12th Doctor's proper final stand was the Doctor Falls, so this is kind of like a nice little add-on, little coda. It might not satisfy the needs of all fans, really. Some fans might just think this is kind of excess and bonus, and oh, we should have gone back at the end of Series 10. I mean, I kind of have mixed feelings on the subject myself, but I think overall it is worth having this extra story, really. even though, you know, the 12th Doctor could have easily just gone at the end of Series 10. As well as this, like I've said, the humour in this episode was just great, possibly amplified by the communal experience of watching it live with an audience. But even so, I don't think I've ever laughed so much whilst watching a Doctor Who episode. The balance between the first and 12th Doctors is excellently played. There are some really funny lines, honestly. There's also the master of the soundtrack, and if the rumours about Murray Gold leaving are true, he definitely goes out on a high with this story. The soundtrack is a real treat to listen to. There's lots of old iconic cues from the last kind of 12 years, stretching back, you know, even to kind of Series 1 and 2, really. Having said that, I mean, some of the cues that reappear are associated with characters that we've not seen for donkeys, so it kind of seems a bit random, a bit obscure having them reappear. But hey, I mean, it's a bit of self-indulgence for what might be his last story that he's doing the soundtrack for. The only thing as well that I would say about the soundtrack is it would be nice to have some variations of old cues. In some cases, he does just literally reuse the same original recording, which, you know, is a bit jarring at times. But having said all of that, you know, it's a good soundtrack, no real complaints. And there's a suitably epic track from the last few years that I'm sure many people will be able to guess what it is, that's picked for the event itself of the 12th Doctor's regeneration and final kind of speech in the TARDIS. And that works pretty well and rounds off his era nicely from a musical point of view. I know there's been some concern amongst fans about the slightly sexist portrayal of the First Doctor as hinted in promotional material. Now, whilst yes, there are some sexist remarks, you know, I can't get away from that, I don't think it detracts from the character or from the episode, and although some fans might not think these comments are true to the 21st century version of the Doctor that we've come to know and love and adore, I do think it's fair enough, actually, to have the First Doctor representing 60s values, even if it doesn't necessarily represent the Doctor himself. I just think within the story, you know, it serves a purpose, and the way it's done as well, it doesn't promote these values, it very much promotes them in a wrong light. But at the end of the day, it is a story. Like I say, it's not promoting these values, it very much presents them in a kind of derogatory light, really. And the 12th Doctor is very clear about that, you know, that there's been a difference and there's been progress. We've got Jodie Whittaker coming in as the first female Doctor next year, and, you know, I think it's just as legitimate, actually, to have that and the behind-the-scenes reasons that may or may not have gone into that choice as, you know, having the First Doctor portrayed the way he is. I think they're both perfectly legitimate, and certainly for the purpose of the story, in this case, I don't think it does detract too much. But again, it's up to fans to judge that for themselves and to judge how much really, you know, they're going to take that to heart and it's going to affect them and spoil their enjoyment of this story. But, you know, I wouldn't say it does spoil it. I really wouldn't. It's some very brief remarks, some of which are played to comic effect and are genuinely funny moments. So yeah. So overall, Twice Upon a Time, a really tight script and performances to die for from all the cast members involved. David Bradley, Mark Gatiss, Pearl Mackie, and of course Peter Capaldi, who truly does go out on a high. It's a great performance from him. Some great speech moments, you know, memorable 12th Doctor moments to round off his era. The screening cuts off just before the regeneration process is over, and Jodie Whittaker speaks her first lines as the Doctor, so that is still one snippet that I haven't seen, and I was really anticipating just seeing, you get a glimpse of her at the end of the screening, just a tiny little glimpse, and I can't wait to see that continued on Christmas Day, I really can't. I do think it's nice that the BBC chose to keep this bit back, to hold it back, so that everybody can watch it together on Christmas Day, because, you know, it's the debut of a new Doctor, it's nice to have that held back, and it's nice to have everybody being able to see that at the same time, I think, definitely. So thank you very much for watching this review. I really hope you enjoyed Twice Upon a Time as much as I did, and sorry that you've got to wait a couple more days than I did. Like I say, it's just been a massive privilege to be able to see this early. It really is something that I've not taken for granted, and it's still not really, you know, I've still not really been able to process what I've seen, and the story, and just the fact that I've actually seen it before everybody else. So it was a really great experience, the screening. Definitely, if you can you know, apply for any of these things in the future, if you're living in any of the regions they're doing stuff in, definitely go for it. It's well worth it to get photos with the TARDIS prop and to watch a Doctor episode in a cinema-esque setting with a live audience. It's a really good experience. There will be a full review of the story coming once it has aired on BBC One on Christmas Day. But apart from that, that's it from me. So thank you again for watching, goodbye for now, and a very Merry Christmas to all of you at home.